Hello friends, Steve Willis here. Today we are looking at ACCA paper financial reporting. Many of you have requested a consolidation question, so today we are looking at the spreadsheet tool exam technique you need in order to do a consolidated statement of financial position. We will be looking at question runner from the September-December 2019 exam. So before you watch the rest of this video, please give that question a try in the practice platform and then come back and we will compare our work. And if you find this video helpful, feel free to give it a like. All right, let us get started. We are in the computer-based exam system. We're doing part A and we see 16 marks. I like to use 1.7 minutes per mark as a time management rule. So we have about 27 minutes in total for this requirement. However, it's going to take us a good 5 or 6 minutes to read it and plan it. So what I'm going to do, start my timer, my countdown timer. I'm going to move this slider over here, all the way over, so I can have a nice read. And I can use the scratch pad and I can use the highlighter to read and take notes. There's a lot of information here. Remember, every sentence has been carefully written. That information is there for a purpose, and I will take notes in the scratch pad. Here is the plan that I've come up with. First thing, I will make my standard template. Easiest thing to do. Next thing, I will add together the assets and the liabilities. Another easy thing to do. Then I'll deal with the unrealized profit and the cash in transit. Okay, the usual suspects we see in almost all of these questions. Then we can get to our standard working one, and we notice that the unrealized profit is moving from the sub to the parent. So we need to make an adjustment in working one, the net asset value of the sub, rather than working for the group retained earnings. So I've made a note of that. Then we'll move to the Goodwill working 2. Then I'll do the non-controlling interest. Working 4 will be the group retained earnings, and then working 5, any other stuff that I bump into, I will deal with it. Remember, we do not need perfection to get a pass. We need 50 marks. If you follow these basic workings, if you are able to handle the usual suspects and you can do make a good attempt at any difficult marks, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to find 50 marks and a pass. Let me shrink this window, scoot it out of the way, and let's open up our spreadsheet now. Okay, we're going to need to pick numbers out of the scenario, so we can come down here to the spreadsheet tool. Let's be neat and professional and give our statement of financial position the proper heading. There might not be a mark for that, but let's be professional and organized in our work. We'll impress the marker, if nothing else. I will use a standard template or pro forma for any ACCA FR consolidation activity. My first column, everybody, will be parent. Second column will be the sub. Third column will be the adjustments. Fourth column will be the group. We can double click column headings to auto enlarge. And I showed you the standard template. Let's come back though and properly name the columns. We have the names of the parent and the sub. So let's use the names given to us in the question. We've read the scenario. We're picking the information out of the left-hand panel, and we now can make a standard template based on the information that we found. So we can start with the non-current assets. Abbreviations are totally fine. total assets line there. We won't get a mark for that. We're doing that really for our entertainment here in this simulation. In the real exam, you won't have time to do that. In the real exam, the assets will not. It's unlikely your total assets will balance with your equity and your liabilities. But we're doing that as a test. Okay, moving along. Now we need to build up the equity section of our statement of financial position. Okay. So we have the equity attributable to the parent. Total equity and liabilities. Let's zoom out, have a look at what we've done. So we have a nice template, and I can enlarge this column so I can see everything that I need. And let us now populate this template with the figures from the scenario. Okay, so I have filled out my template, okay, with the assets and liabilities of the parent and the sub. And at this point, we can now move to step 2, and we can add up the assets and the liabilities. So I'm going to come here to the group column, and that's going to be equal to the sum of this range of cells, okay, from column B to column D, grabbing the adjustments column as well. Okay, now, using the power of relative cell addressing, I can copy paste that. Copy, paste, paste, paste. Okay, let's come down here. Paste, and let's come back up to our total assets. That's going to be equal to the sum, okay, of this entire range of cells, okay, from row 5 all the way to the bottom, okay? Now, we won't get a mark for that. I'm just showing you that. That's for our demonstration purposes. Let's come back here, total equity and liabilities. That will be equal to the sum of this range of cells, right? From the total of the row 16 all the way down. And clearly they are not balancing at this point, but that's okay. We're going to make quick work of this. Next on my hit list are the usual suspects. In note 2, we have the intercompany balances and the unrealized profit to deal with. So those will be adjustments to our current assets and liabilities. So if we deal first with the cash in transit, that's going to be an increase to the group cash of 3. So we're debiting cash 3. And then we are reducing the trade receivables. So that will be equal to a -3 here. The remainder is a 3.4, which is essentially a contra to eliminate. So we will need to subtract another 3.4, a credit to receivables, and we can come downstairs and debit payables. Let's deal with the PERP now, the provision for unrealized profit. Remember, this is moving from the sub to the parent, so we need to adjust our inventory. Okay, that's going to be equal to, we have how much left in inventory? We have 4.8 remaining, so that will be 4.8. And the markup on that, or excuse me, the margin, the profit margin was 15%. So multiply by 0.15. Okay, that is the profit that we need to remove from the inventory. Let's make that negative. Put a negative sign in front of either of that. And I'm putting a note here to remind me that I need to deal with this in the net asset value of the sub rather than the retained earnings of the group. So I will deal with that in the next working. Look at this. Let me zoom out. We're making quick work of this problem following the principles of easy marks first. And my statement of financial position is looking lovely. We've cleared some easy marks. We're making good progress. Let's now move to 4 standard workings that you'll need for any consolidation exercise in your FM exam. And I'm going to park these workings to the right of my statement of financial position. It's easier to see them. It's easier to copy paste into my documents if it's on the right rather than below. So working 1, guys, will be the fair value of the net asset value of the sub. Abbreviations are completely fine. The marking team knows what you're doing. Now I'm going to go down 5 or 6, 7 rows, and we can do working 2. And everyone, we know that one. That's Goodwill. We know it. We love it. Let's go down a couple more. W3, working 3 can be our non-controlling interest. Abbreviations are fine, everybody. Working 4 will be our group retained earnings. Let's tackle working 1, everybody. I'll start with 3 columns that I use every time. Acquisition date, closing date, and then the post-acquisition column. Okay, there we have our 3 columns. Double-click on a column separator to open that up. Okay. And I'll use standard rows. We'll always have a row for shared capital and retained earnings. Sometimes we'll need a row for share premium. And because of the intercompany trading that was flowing from sub to parent, remember the provision for unrealized profit working comes into working 1. Now we plug in the numbers from the question, and we have okay, now we can total all of this up. Using the sum function. Copy, paste, post-acquisition will be equal to closing column minus the acquisition column. And we can copy this down. Okay, and now if we copy this over, there we have it. Okay, very important working. We will use these figures shortly. We can put an underline under those to show that they are totals under a column. Let's move to working number 2, Goodwill. And we will need some more room here, so we can just copy paste these out of the way. Control X, cut them out of the way. We can park them a little bit lower. We can grab them as we need them. So now we have room to do our Goodwill working. Okay. Make that bold to show we're starting something new, to helping the marker follow what we're doing. And first step, how much did we pay? What was the consideration for this company? How much cash did we pay? 42.5. And the purchase happened on 1 April, 1 full year before we will settle. So we need to discount that payment. So the deferred payment is 21. That will be equal to 21 multiplied by that discount rate, 0 discount factor, 0.926. And we can total that up. And we know the fair value of the non-controlling interest. The question tells us that's 13. Okay. Can we total this up? Yes, we can, with the sum function. From this, we need to subtract the fair value of the net asset value of the sub at the acquisition date, and we've done that in working 1. So guys, and this will be equal to the first column from working 1. And we can make that negative. All we have to do is set a negative sign in front of that cell, and it becomes negative. And if we total those, there we go. The goodwill, calculated quickly and efficiently with the spreadsheet tool. This is starting to look a little bit messy. I want to reinforce that there are no marks for formatting. However, let's be professional and let us also work more efficiently when we can more clearly see what we're doing. So I'm going to grab all of the cells and I will set everything to 2 decimal places, guys. There it is, the last one. Okay, easier on my eye. We're making great progress. Let's move now to working 3, the non-controlling interest. And let's get this out of the way. Let's get working 4. Control cut, control paste, get that out of the way. And we know the value of the NCI at acquisition. And we can just set that equal to the cell above, since we have it there. If something goes wrong and we want to change it, the change will cascade everywhere. And now we need the non-controlling interests portion of the post-acquisition change in net assets. So we know that the NCI has 20%, so this is going to be this cell will be equal to this cell multiplied by 0.2. Working 3 complete. Let's take a minute before we move on and update our statement of financial position. Zoom out. And with your workings on the right rather than below, it's easier to link your cells. Okay, let's tackle working number 4. Group retained earnings. So we have our usual suspects here. We have the retained earnings of the parent. Okay. Then we get the parent's share of the sub. And we have the most difficult part of the question down here. If you make it this far and you don't know how to deal with this next part, it's not a problem. If you got this far, you will have a comfortable pass. But let's make it perfect. Okay, so now we have to show the interest here, or the unwinding of that discount. Okay, so this would be interest so we have to unwind that discount on the deferred consideration. We'll come to that in a moment. So we know the full value of the parent is 286.6. We know the parent's share of the sub, that will be equal to 80% of the 783 from working one. So we have a liability of 21 million here, okay, that we owe essentially tomorrow. And we have a debit over here in our Goodwill, the discounted amount, okay, at the beginning of the year. So the difference, everybody, is the interest. So I can just take equal to the 21 minus the discounted figure, and we get a 155. Remember, that's an expense, so we make it negative. All I need to do is wrap that calculation in parentheses and put a negative sign in front, and that will make the result negative. Guys, now we have the group retained earnings. Friends, awesome work to this point. We are almost done. The last step, the final workings, cleanup. Let's link our results to our statement of financial position and finish this up in no time at all. It will be easier to zoom out and do this. Guys, a good tip in the exam is to use the zooming as well. If you need to get a bigger picture view, zoom out. If you can't see very well, zoom in. Okay, so we did some new workings that need to be plugged in. Did we calculate the group retained earnings? Yes, we did. That's equal to cell H28. Okay, do we know the equity attributable to the parent? Sure we do. That is this 202. We can just cut it out and pop it in here. Remember, if we have any unused rows or unused cells, we will lose no marks. Okay, there are no professional marks. That happens in the strategic professional exams. What else remains to be done? Well, we have a couple of more things that we didn't finish up. Let us come upstairs. We have to clean up our assets. Remember, we have an adjustment to PP&E. That would be that fair value adjustment at the closing date. So that will be equal to the 9 over here. And we started with 55 million of investment. We took out the part that we consolidated, which was the 42.5. And look at that, everybody. It looks like it balances. We've got a 624.93, a 624.93. Remember, though, that's not going to happen in the exam. This is an artificial simulation here, right? I tried this before I demonstrated to you. In the real exam, you won't finish it up. There might be a couple of mistakes, but if you can get through the standard workings, if you can try your best on the difficult workings, present your work in a nice, neat, orderly manner so the marker can follow along and give you the own figure rule. Remember, if any result is incorrect here, when you use it at the next step, it is assumed correct, so you will not be punished twice. A little bit of final cleanup. I can make this bold so it looks lovely. Let's tell the user of this document that I'm working in some country. It's $1 million. Guys, look at that. Lovely looking final answer. There you have it, the exam technique for a financial reporting consolidation question. Everybody, good luck on your upcoming exam.